Hi, everyone. I'm ending this right here. Someone's coming towards you is so vague it's meaningless. Coming how? Physically, emotionally, metaphorically, for what purpose? With what intentions? This phrasing is deliberately ambiguous, so it can be retrofitted to match whatever eventually happens in your life. Someone texts you, someone shows up, someone expresses interest, someone asks you out. Then you'll think the prediction was accurate when really you just made vague statement fit normal human interaction. So let's talk about what you actually need to know. How to assess people based on their demonstrated character, not on predictions about their supposed approach. Approach means nothing without context. Someone moving towards you, that's neutral information. Could be good, could be bad, could be completely irrelevant depending on who they are and what they want. So, content promising that someone's coming and this is what you need to know, it's creating anticipation without substance. It's making you wait for information about approaching person without giving you any actual useful data about who they are, what they want, whether their approach serves you. It's all set up, no payoff. All anticipation, no utility. And that anticipation, it keeps you engaged, keeps you watching, keeps you consuming content that promises to tell you what you need to know about this mysterious approaching person. But what you actually need to know can't come from prediction. It can only come from observation of actual person making actual approach. Can you see how the promise of information substitutes for actual information? Recognize when you're being sold anticipation instead of insight. Because here's what coming towards you could mean. It could be romantic. Someone developing interest. Someone preparing to express feelings. Someone moving from observer to participant in your life. Could be reconciliation. Ex or former friend reconsidering distance. Someone who withdrew, now approaching reconnection. Someone ready to address what went unresolved, could be professional. Opportunity approaching. Person with proposal. Collaboration or offer building toward presentation. Could be confrontational. Someone preparing to address grievance. Someone coming with agenda. Someone whose approach isn't welcome. See how many different meanings fit? How impossible it is to prepare for someone coming without knowing who and why and in what context. Which interpretation are you hoping for? Notice that hope existed before prediction. Prediction just activated it because I need to address what this is what you need to know promises. It suggests there's specific crucial information that will help you navigate this approach successfully. Information that will prepare you, information that will give you advantage or protection or clarity, but then content doesn't actually provide that information. Or it provides such generic guidance, stay grounded, trust yourself, maintain boundaries, that it applies to literally any human interaction. So the promise of what you need to know is bait, is hook, is way to get you engaged with content that then doesn't deliver the specific actionable guidance it promised. You're being sold something that doesn't exist, and your engagement is the product being harvested while you wait for delivery that never comes. Are you noticing the gap between promise and delivery? Train yourself to see when content overpromises and underdelivers, because here's what you actually need to know about anyone approaching, not their supposed feelings, not their claimed intentions, not what they might be thinking or planning, but their demonstrated character, their behavioral patterns, their track record of how they treat people, their capacity for honesty, consistency, respect. That information, you get it through observation, not through prediction. Through watching how they handle conflict, how they treat service workers, how they speak about exes, how they show up when it's inconvenient, through time and interaction, not through consuming content about energy approaching. So if someone is coming toward you, if approach is happening or about to happen, your preparation isn't about knowing cosmic significance. It's about having clear criteria for what you'll accept and what you won't. What constitutes respectful approach versus manipulative one? What kind of energy you're available for versus what you need to decline? What are your actual criteria for engaging with people who approach? Get clear before the moment arrives. Because I want to talk about the rose and heart emoji. They suggest romance. They prime you to interpret approaching person as romantic possibility. They activate your desire for connection, for being chosen, for someone moving toward you with affection. And that activation, it makes you less discerning, makes you more likely to accept approach from anyone just because approach is happening, makes you confuse being wanted with being wanted by someone worth engaging with. But approach doesn't equal value. Someone moving toward you doesn't mean they're good for you. Interest doesn't equal compatibility or health or potential. So if someone approaches with romantic energy, if person moving toward you seems to have romantic intentions, don't let flattery of being pursued override assessment of who's pursuing. Don't accept attention just because attention is being offered. Assess, observe, require demonstration of character before investing. Can you stay discerning even when someone's pursuing you? This determines whether you end up in functional relationships or just in any relationship, because here's what often happens with predicted approaches. Content says someone's coming. You start watching for signs. You start interpreting any interaction as potential fulfillment of prediction. Someone texts you, must be the approach. Someone asks you out, must be the person. Someone shows interest, must be the predicted energy, and you engage, you respond, you invest, not because the person has demonstrated their worth engaging with, but because content told you someone was coming and you've decided this must be them. That's not discernment. That's confirmation bias, making you see what you were told to look for. Are you assessing people on their merits or just trying to match them to predictions? One builds healthy relationships. The other builds disappointment. Because I also need to address the possibility that no one is actually approaching that this is just generic content that will seem accurate because humans interact constantly. Someone will text you, someone will show interest, someone will engage, not because prediction saw it, but because that's normal social reality. And when normal interaction happens, you'll credit the prediction. You'll think content saw your future when it just described probability that someone would interact with you eventually. That's not prophecy. That's just understanding that humans don't exist in isolation and someone approaching you in some capacity is virtually guaranteed if you wait long enough. How much normal life are you interpreting as cosmic? Confirmation. Distinguish between prediction and probability, because here's what you actually need to know, and this applies regardless of who's approaching. Your worth isn't determined by who pursues you. Your value doesn't increase because someone's moving toward you. Your significance doesn't require external validation through being chosen. You're already whole, already complete, already valuable. So if someone approaches, if person moves toward you, if interest gets expressed, you can receive it from groundedness, not from need. You can assess from clarity, not from gratitude, that anyone wants you. You can choose from power, not from scarcity. That's preparation that matters, not knowing cosmic significance of approach, but knowing your own worth, independent of who's approaching. Are you grounded in your worth, or are you seeking validation through being pursued? Answer determines how you navigate any approach. Because ultimately, here's what this comes down to: content says someone's coming towards you, says there's something you need to know, creates anticipation about approaching person or energy. And maybe someone will approach, maybe interest will be expressed, maybe movement toward you will happen. But that movement, it's neutral. It's just someone taking action. It doesn't carry inherent meaning. It doesn't guarantee positive outcome. It doesn't ensure that engaging serves you. So your work isn't consuming predictions about who's coming. Your work is knowing what you want, knowing what you'll accept, knowing what constitutes respectful approach versus manipulative one, knowing when to engage and when to decline. That clarity, you build it now before approach happens. So when someone does move toward you, you can assess from groundedness instead of just reacting to the fact that approach is occurring. Someone coming toward you, that's information, not instruction. You decide what to do with it based on who they are, based on what they're offering, based on whether engaging serves your actual life, not your fantasy about being chosen. That's your power, that's your agency, that's your responsibility. Use it. Or surrender it to content that tells you someone's coming without giving you any actual useful information about whether their approach deserves your engagement. Your choice, your life, your consequence. Choose consciously. People approach constantly. The question isn't who's coming, but whether their approach merits your engagement. Stop waiting for predictions about mystery people and start building criteria for what you'll accept. Someone moving toward you means nothing until you assess who they are and what they're offering. Stay discerning. Your attention is valuable. Don't give it to anyone just because they're approaching.